Bob stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched the monstrous figure of the Hulk emerge from the clouds like a dark storm. The Hulk was enraged, his eyes glowing with a fiery intensity that sent a shiver down Bob's spine. Without a moment's hesitation, Bob turned and ran, his legs pumping as he desperately tried to put distance between himself and the angry behemoth. The Hulk roared in frustration, his powerful legs propelling him forward with earth-shaking strides. Bob raced into the towering glass and steel structure of a nearby skyscraper, hoping to lose the Hulk in the maze of corridors and stairwells. The Hulk, however, was relentless, his green form crashing through the building's windows like a battering ram. Bob darted through the building, dodging the Hulk's outstretched arms and leaping over the rubble of his destructive path. He narrowly escaped being crushed by a falling ceiling and narrowly avoided being trampled underfoot. With the Hulk closing in, Bob made a desperate gamble and dove into a crowded bank vault. The terrified screams of the bank patrons echoed through the air as Bob sought refuge among them. The Hulk, now enraged beyond measure, stood outside the vault's steel door, his massive hands tearing at the metal like a rabid animal. He roared, his voice shaking the very foundations of the building. "Bring me Bob, or I will eat you all." The terrified bank patrons, their faces pale with fear, turned to Bob, their eyes pleading. They knew that the Hulk's wrath would be upon them if they did not comply with his demands. Bob's heart sank. He knew that this was the end. He had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Hulk would find him, and when he did, he would crush him like an insect. Bob was a coward, and he did not want to die. He started to cry and beg for mercy, but the bank patrons were not moved by his pleas. Bob could feel the Hulk's raging stare on him as the panicked crowd beat him and dragged him out of the vault and towards the monstrous and green behemoth. The Hulk's massive hands closed around Bob's body, squeezing with an iron grip. Bob let out a scream of terror as he felt his bones creaking and begin to snap. The Hulk's eyes narrowed, his gaze fixed on Bob with a predatory intensity. He opened his massive jaws, revealing rows of tombstone-like teeth, and slowly began to close them around Bob's head. Bob's heart pounded in his chest like a drum, his breath caught in his throat, his body paralyzed by fear. He watched in horror as the Hulk's jaws closed in, his teeth inches from his face, the stench of the Hulk's fetid breath filling his nostrils. As the Hulk's jaws inched closer, Bob closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable. He knew that this was the end. He could hear the Hulk's laughter echoing in his ears, a cruel and mocking sound that signaled the end of his life. And then, everything went dark.